Father God, we just come to you now and we just thank you and we praise you for all that you do. For this season is truly a season for us to be thankful, and we just thank you for the ultimate gift that you gave in your Son, Jesus. And Lord, I just ask that you are with each and every commissioner and that you guide them and direct them and just help them make the decisions that reflect you. And Lord, just be with every member of this county and with all of their families. Again, Lord, we just ask for blessings on the men and women that are protecting our great nation. And Father, we just thank you and we love you. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair, to approve agenda.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from November 8th. I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, public requests. Do we have any public requests at this time? Nobody. Okay. Moving on to elected officials and department head reports. Detention. Ms. Ramsey. Very much. Do y'all have anything?
To add to that, I'm sorry, I didn't put it on my report. I did have a vaccination clinic last week. We had a total of, I believe, 9 detainees do the vaccination and 1 staff member.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. Road, Mr. Lovato.
Sorry.
I'm just teasing you. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We continue to do our maintenance. We're blading, we're patching. We should be starting our LGRF road projects in about 2 weeks. The guys are the crew. One of the crews is out on South Roosevelt Road 19. We got 4 of the miles done. We're like 1 mile of ripping and putting it back together. So we had a pretty good storm this weekend. The wind blew, tumbleweeds came in. We We actually made the news yesterday. KRQE came in and they did a little spell for us and got on the TV. And we talked about not driving through tumbleweeds, and if they see any tumbleweeds in any of these roads that are blockage, give us a call. And we gave our phone numbers and I believe the email address also. But towards the end, the reporter did say that we would go out on their personal property and clean tumbleweeds out there, and we do not get on personal property. We do clean up on our right of ways is all we do. I want to clarify that we don't do that. We don't get on personal property. I think the count's going to be up to about 100 different roads of blockages throughout the whole county, and I'm sure we're missing some of them. The calls keep continuing to come in. Tomorrow, as you all know, the wind's going to shift. It's going to blow 45, 60 miles an hour. So everywhere that it is today, it'll be different tomorrow. And we're going to work through this weekend. The administration gave us permission to get out and work this weekend to get these roads cleared up for everybody to get around. So we are working this weekend. I don't know how many of my guys are available, but it'll be at least 3/4 of them out working. Stand for any questions.
You have something?
Real quick, do we still have that machine for tumbleweeds? No, we never did.
Turn your mic on.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, so what method are y'all using to get
So
rid of
what we do
tumbleweeds?
is we get out with our blades and we actually have to smash them. There's some of them 15, 20 feet tall, but you go through it and you start smashing them, get them to where you can work on them. And then once you get it smashed to a workable size, then we start kicking it off in the bar ditch. But eventually, the bar ditch is going to get full. I don't know what we're going to do in the future because this is going to be an ongoing problem through spring. The crop of tumbleweeds is out there forever. Yes, sir.
I think you should make clear for the public that you shouldn't try to drive on those, or, because a guy like me that's never lived out in the country, I'd get my Jeep and get it 4-wheel drive and just try to drive.
Right. So I would stress that we do not drive through these. These newer vehicles got the Cadillac converter underneath it. These tumbleweeds are extremely flammable. It gets underneath there, spark a fire. It could be a bearing, anything that can start a fire. And it's dry and so much fuel that we got out in the county from grass, CRP, everything's just dry. It'll get crazy. And then if the wind's blowing, it'll be a big chore for fire department, for us, everybody to get this fire put out. So please do not drive through that. Call us and we'll go out and get to it eventually, as soon as possible.
So real quick, Commissioner Greider, if memory serves me right, that machine never panned out that you guys had pushed for? Yes, this was before Amber's time. I never dealt with county roads, so that I just assumed that I didn't know if we had it or didn't have it.
So I'm counting on my years here. I think I've been here 15, 16 years, and it was before me.
Okay.
So
Would something like that help?
Miss Tina, she suggested a snowplow with a auger that kicks snow. They do it in Colorado. Ms. Dixon said that, and I'm going to do some investigation, do some research, and look that up and see if there's something that we can look into buying and using something like that. I mean, it would be good for snow plus tumbleweeds, so we could get some snow coming through.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else? You need to turn your mic on.
What's the status of our no burn ordinance?
I brought that up yesterday, and Ms. Hamilton will talk to you about that.
It's not here yet. I don't think.
So, Commissioner Savage, in reviewing the level of drought, our drought ordinance is tied to the rating of the U.S. Drought Monitor. At this point, as of last Thursday, when I checked the U.S. Drought Monitor, We are not in an extreme level of drought or even a severe level of drought at this time. Actually, there's only a very small percentage of New Mexico that is. So in our ordinance, it is triggered off of when we hit severe or extraordinary drought degrees, and when we start hearing from our local fire departments, all of those things come into place. So we're still monitoring it, but we're not at a level yet where it would kick in based on the drought level.
Mrs. Hamilton. But if we choose to go forward with that restriction, no burn deal, we can. We don't have to wait on the monitor.
I don't, pardon me, I don't have our ordinance in front of us, so I would just have to look at that, and let me see if I can pull that up while we're sitting here, and I'll get back with you. Sure.
Anybody else have anything for Ricky? Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you. You're fine.
Now we are to manager, Miss Hamilton.
Good morning again, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So just a couple of things we want to report real quick. Our fiscal year 21 audit has been submitted. It was submitted on time. They're estimating 30 to 45 days until we receive the Office of the State Auditor's approval review. And then at that point, we'll be able to make it public. At this point, everything is, of course, prohibited from any kind of public discussion. So the only thing I can do is share that it has been submitted. I was asked to testify at the Tax Revenue and Stabilization Committee, Subcommittee, Interim Committee in Santa Fe right before Thanksgiving. So I did do that. I know I shared that with y'all as well, but they had asked the local governments, and both the cities and the counties had a few designees that presented on just some of the things that we're facing with GRT and the new collection and what we're seeing and everything. And so we shared that information with them. Happy to report that the Curry, Roosevelt, Clovis, Portales, Alzheimer's Walk, the benefit raised over $4,000 for our area. So we were really proud of the work that had been done there. Your people need to mute. Okay, so the other thing that we're wanting to note, and there'll be some discussion in a little bit on a resolution that I'm asking y'all to consider in helping us try to hire some positions. The other thing is that, as y'all remember, we commissioned a salary study to be completed. It's so important to make sure that we stay market competitive, especially in this very rapidly changing environment. And so we do have the draft of our salary study. We're waiting on the final draft. We had reviewed, had some questions, found some typos and such. So we're anticipating receiving that within the next week or so, ideally. And both myself and our new HR coordinator, which I think most of y'all have had the opportunity to meet, but if not, Sean Andrews is sitting back here in the blue shirt. We are going to be bringing some other options for the commission to consider at the next meeting. We're looking at where we're at in terms of the salary review. We already have the annual adjustments budgeted in, but we're going to bring some new things for y'all to be able to consider for our staff, such as the COLA like we did at the last year. It's, again, really imperative that we stay competitive, as you know, and there is just not a substantial workforce out there right now. And we are really facing problems on filling these positions and keeping them there. When you have I was talking to one of the attorneys in Albuquerque, and he was telling me that I think it was the fast food restaurant, I think it was Wendy's, was offering over $80,000 to run it. And then like a $15,000, $20,000 signing bonus. I mean, it's just incredible what we're seeing everywhere. And even here, it's very competitive. And when you see some of the fast food chains that are paying as much as compete with that. And so we're going to consider adjusting percentages that the county is able to contribute. We verified all of those. Again, looking at a COLA just really trying to make sure that our number one asset in all of our employees is protected, and then really honor them, but keep what we have, because retention is so vital right now. We're seeing that with our corrections officers. The state has moved their starting rate to $20 an hour. We are at $13.10. So those are the challenges that we're facing. And so just want to present on that and let y'all know that hopefully we'll be able to present that salary study to y'all the 21st. Sean is on it to make sure we get our final draft. And then we will have some additional resolutions for y'all. So other than that, the tumbleweeds, we are really hoping that we not donate, we gift them to the state of Texas starting Wednesday when the wind starts again. We are projected wind Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday, I think, were some of the latest projections. Wednesday didn't really qualify as only 19 miles an hour. Thursday, 50 mile an hour gust. So we're seeing major wind events. That's why we were really quick to put out a press release yesterday, because we did have a bus driver drive through it. Well, then the road department guys are out there very kindly pulling the tumbleweeds off the bus for the bus driver, and it can cause vehicle damage and everything else. And again, as Mr. Lovato covered, the fire danger is very real right now. And so we just want to be aware of that, but we're going to continue to get to them. We had, I think, over 50 calls yesterday alone. I know y'all had many calls, so thank y'all for sharing those. If y'all text or call me or anything, we just make sure that they're on the list. And then as our road crew works around, as y'all know, it's not fruitful to jump over and skip a bunch of things. So what they're doing is they're just trying to work road by road. If they see it plugged, they're working it. If not, if we see some regular maintenance that needs to be done and it's safety issues, if not, then we're hopping over and we're doing the continued tumbleweeds, because we're just trying to get those knocked out this week as much as we can. And Rick and his team have just been incredible. They have been able to keep us thoroughly entertained with some photos that they're able to take. Newspaper and the Roosevelt Review both covered and put in our press release and photos and such. And then we had several TV stations out of Albuquerque and out of Amarillo to hit our market. So we're trying to do everything we can to raise awareness and also encourage residents to report if they do see road blockages, because we just can't drive every road, as y'all are aware. And so if y'all see one, let us know. If other residents see anything that's blocked, call, because we'd rather have it on the list 2 or 3 times than to not know about it. So, okay, the end. I would stand for any questions.
I just wanted to follow up with you, Mr. Greider. Our ordinance essentially provides that a majority of the commission can enact any portion or reduce any portion of our burn ordinance, but it's got to be a resolution on our agenda. So you might want to include that on the next agenda as something to consider.
Anybody have anything else? Thank you. Okay, commissioners, you got anything? Paul, you got anything? Okay, moving right along. Amber, we have that recognition of human resources coordinator.
Yes. So glad I just skipped right over poor little Deb back here. So we're super excited to be able to just really express our appreciation of Miss Deborah Oles. She has been our human resource coordinator since 2016. She did choose to retire for some crazy reason the end of October. And Deb has done a fantastic job of just really coming in, learning the government system and all the challenges that come with it. But she has just been an incredible team member. She's provided a lot of entertainment for many of us in the room, as we can all attest to. So we just wanted to take a moment and just really honor her and appreciate her for all of her hard work as an outstanding public servant. And we have a plaque that we had engraved in her honor to present her with. So if y'all will join me in congratulating her.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Deb, for everything. We appreciate you. Okay. New business. Item 5A, presentation and direction on proposed redistricting plans. Mr. Morrison.
And everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Chair and thanks for having me here this morning. Present remotely. My name is Brad Morrison. I'm a districting specialist with research and polling out of Albuquerque. And research and polling has had, we've been doing this for 4 decades. I've been with the firm for 22 years. And, we've been hired by the county to provide professional and technical services to help you redraw the commission district boundary lines in Roosevelt County. I'm actually at the state captain right now. Working with the state legislators to redraw all of their districts.
Amber.
So who redistricts?
Amber.
That's what we're doing here
He's
now.
having trouble
So 3 congressional districts in New Mexico. That's the responsibility of the state legislature. They're also responsible for redistricting themselves, redoing the state house, the state senate, the public education commission. When it comes to county commissions, city councils, and local school boards, you are responsible for redistricting yourself. So Roosevelt County Commission has the authority to redraw your own county commission district boundaries. What is redistricting? Redistricting is drawing and redrawing the lines that determine which voters are represented by each district. And we redistrict because New Mexico statute requires it. 438.3 says that any county that has a population greater than 13,000 must go to single member district. That's what you currently have, and that's what we redraw. The current population in Roosevelt County is 19,191 people. That's a decline from 19,846 in the 2010 census. So you've lost a little bit of population. And the population changes over the course of the decade. Even if you don't grow much or lose a little population, you still will typically have to redraw your boundary lines because people shift, they move, or different apartment complexes are built, new construction happens, different stuff like that. So people shift within. They are equal population, minority voting rights, compactness of districts, contiguity of districts, and communities of interest. We'll talk about each one. The first one is ideal population, and that's what we look at the most probably. It is currently, like I said, 19,191 people are in Roosevelt County. That's a decline of 3.3% or 655 people. So we have to figure out what the ideal population is for each of the districts. And that's very simple to do. Just take that total population number, divide it by your number of districts, which is 5, and you get a number of 3,838 people per district. Now, what's accepted, they say that the district must be substantially equal. And they determine that in New Mexico, the accepted standard is within plus or minus 5% of the ideal population. So we have a range to deal with, from 3,646 people to 4,030 people. So we have to be within that range in each district. And obviously that's what I'm here to do. And the plans that I'll be presenting will be within that plus or minus 5% range.
And again, I should mention that this is based on total population, not the registered voters. So people think we do it based on registered voters or the adult population, but this is every person is counted in the census, and that's what we're using to draw the ballot. So that's what it requires. The next principle is minority voting strength. What this says is that we should not dilute the voting strength of ethnic or language minority groups. This is laid out in the Voting Rights Act in Section 2. This includes Native Americans, African Americans, Hispanics. But what we have to remember is that we cannot create districts in which race is the predominant criterion in subordination of traditional districting principles. In other words, we can't create districts based on minority voting strength that violate the equal population principle or the contiguity principle. Can it be considered? Yes. Is it the only thing to consider? No. The next is compactness of districts. And we have different ways to measure this in our software. There are many different measures, mathematical formulas to figure out whether or not a district is considered compact. But pretty much we know when we see it. And this comes into play more in places, either in big cities or in state legislative redistricting or U.S. congressional redistricting. This slide shows an example of compactness. We just like to show this to help people understand what we're talking about. The image on the left is New Mexico's 3rd congressional district from 1991. It's not too much different from what it is today, although after this week and next week it could look a little different. Probably will. And that district is considered compact. On the right, the top image shows Texas's 18th congressional district from 1991, which was thrown out by the courts because it was considered not compact. As you can see, it goes all over the place. This is in the city of Houston, Texas. And so this was deemed in violation of the compactness principle. The image on the bottom was in North Carolina's 12th congressional district, digging along a highway for a couple of 100 miles, picking up different population. Again, this was thrown out by the courts. We won't have that problem in Roosevelt County, but I just want you to understand that that is a principle against this. The next slide is contiguity of districts. And it's pretty simple. The image on the left shows 3 contiguous districts, A, B, and C. The image on the right shows that District A is 2 distinct islands of territory. We can't do that. That's considered not contiguous. And we won't have any plans that show that violating those 2 issues. Lastly, we have communities of interest. This is anything else you could consider in the redistricting process. It could be respecting political subdivisions, neighborhoods, geographic boundaries, respecting cultural or historical traditions, maintaining the core of your existing districts, and avoiding pairing incumbents. We typically try to the best of our ability to not pair incumbents. And to my knowledge, with the information I was provided by the county, I have not done that in any of these plans. And lastly, communities of interest can be considered as long as you don't violate the previous redistricting principle. Next is the slide of your current districts. And the map here is not as important as the table on the left, but I'll describe the map briefly. You have a district in the center of the city, District 1. And then going back to the county, you have District 2 in the northeastern part of the county, District 3 in the southeastern part of the county, District 4 in the southwestern part of the county, and District 5 in the northwestern part. All of the plans pretty much maintain the same configuration. Plan C is slightly different. In this slide, like I said, the most important thing to look at is the data table on the left. You can see that what the deviations are from that ideal population. In District 1, you're at negative 1.5%. So in theory, It should not have to change, although when we make changes to other districts, sometimes it does change. In District 2, you're at 5.1, slightly over the ideal, within that range. District 3 is negative 1.3, again acceptable. District 4 is at negative 7.1, so it has to pick up some population. And District 5 is at 4.8, over the ideal population. So the first thing we try to do is create a plan that we call a status quo plan. I did the same thing for the city of Dallas. In this plan, it's really simple. The only change is that District 4, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but District 4 moves 1 block further east into the city of Portales. This precinct is already split. So we're just moving a little further into that precinct. We're basically moving it from Avenue C to Avenue B, the boundary line, to pick up populations from Districts 1 and 2. In this plan, Districts 3 and District 5 do not change at all. And 1, 2, and 4 change very, very minimal. So this is the least amount of change you can have and accomplish your redistricting process. I should mention too that in many places, we try not to split precincts. I mean, I would try that in Roosevelt County as well. But based on the nature of your precincts and the way the population stacks up, it's really almost impossible to do. And I'll get into that in a little bit. That is your status quo least change plan. In proposed plan B, I'm not even showing the whole county because everything outside of the city of Portales does not change in this plan either. What we did here is we moved District 1 further north. District 1 backs out of Portales slightly to the north. We split precinct 17 to do that in order to get the population we need. This allows District 4 to push further northeast into the city. And District 2 backs out of the city slightly. The rest of the county remains the same as current. District 3 does not change at all from the current plan, from what you're currently operating. So slightly different. The biggest change would probably be to 1, but then you have the change between 2 and 4. Now, Plan C is, we were trying to do something different, trying to work with, further out in the county and see what we can do. The precincts are geographically extremely large, so it becomes a challenge. Sometimes you take a precinct and you get blocked from taking another one. So it's a challenging process. This plan has District 2 taking a large portion of District 3 in the southern portion of the county. District 3 pushes further into the city. District 2 backs out of the city. District 1 and District 5 do not change in this plan. So again, District 1 shown here, City of Portales, has not changed at all. District 3 pushes up into the city. District 2 backs out because it took most of that southern portion. So we're getting back to that issue of the precincts. I did try to draw a plan that did not split precincts just to see if I could do it. I spent probably more time than I have on any other entity trying to draw that plan. And I did come up with one that did not split precincts. However, it paired incumbents, paired some of you together in districts, and it also significantly weakened the minority voting stream in District 1. For those reasons, I chose not to show that plan, and it's not a plan that we recommend. But I wanted you to know that I tried to draw a plan that did not split precinct. And again, you have a split precinct right now in your current plan. But I was just trying to see if I could do it without splitting a precinct. I was able to do one, but I wouldn't recommend that. That's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
Madam Chair, I've got one question.
Okay.
So going back, thanks again for doing this presentation for us, Brad. But on Plan A, you said you used two words, status quo and then ideal plan. I agree with you on that. The only discrepancy that we saw as far as the 5 districts is that District 4 has a little less voters than what you guys would recommend, right?
No, what you're saying is like District 4 in Plan A.
Yes, District 4 and Plan A, that would remedy what you talked about at the beginning of the presentation, where District 4 isn't at the ideal platform that it should be at. Did I hear you right?
Yeah, all of the districts in Plan A fall back within that plus or minus 5% range, which is acceptable. And again, you mentioned the voters. I don't even look at the voters, but I'm looking at total population.
Okay.
But yes, this plan is completely compliant. It's the least change plan. It affects you as people.
And it would promote equality. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Yes.
You see the slide of the current,
I have a thing for you.
The current in the city or current?
Here's
current districts. This is the current districts, right?
That is correct.
That's in town.
So we moved one block for Plan A. We basically moved the line. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not. We moved the line between 4 and 1 and 2 right here. From
So District 4 is moving.
moves from
I'm
Avenue
gonna show
C
you.
to Avenue B.
I was going to show you our current plan.
That's all it does. It just moves, it shifts that.
One
line
block.
from
It moves one block.
To move, to pick up the population needs
And
to
it just
balance
moves
out.
this one over to this block right here. Just goes to-
And plus, he just mentioned, Mr. Commissioner Greider, that the population that it needs, it will balance all the districts. Now, with District 4, it's not balanced. So it would just be a one block, B to C to B, and it'd be the less restrictive, I think. That's what I would recommend. I don't know if we're taking
I
action
like
today.
A.
I like A or B. I think C's kind of way out.
We are not taking action today. We'll have a public hearing where the people can see Mr. Morrison's proposals. They'll have
Okay.
2 weeks, and then we'll take action at the next meeting.
Okay.
This meeting educates you all and the public, and then the public have 2 weeks to look over them, and then we'll take action.
Okay.
Thank you, Mandy. That was my next question.
And Mr. Morrison, which one of these would actually be your recommendation? Is it A?
Well, I've been asked that question before, and so have my colleagues. And we typically don't make a recommendation. It's not really, we don't view it as in our purview to make a recommendation on which plan we think is best. We think any 3 of them will work. But my experience with doing this all over the state, in different cities, different counties, is that typically people want the least change possible. And that's why we usually start with that. Because it affects the fewest voters. It makes it easier for the county clerk or the city clerk to recode the voters that we're moving into the new districts. That's one reason, but also just because typically people want to keep things the way they are and they typically like what they have. So I don't necessarily recommend the plan. It's just that my experience is that usually people choose the least change plan for those reasons. Now, I can say in the city of Portales, they did not choose my lease change plan. The plan they chose cleaned up some lines, made it a little cleaner in the city. It didn't move a ton of people, but it definitely moved significantly more than the status quo plan. So for me, I don't really have a recommendation, and it's not really in my purview to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
The plus or minus 5% in the population is an ideal, but it is not essential. Is that correct? What would be the limits?
Well, that's a good question. For decades in New Mexico, what we have been asked to do is stay within that plus or minus 5%. There are some, you can have an overall deviation of 10% in certain situations. Maybe a +7 and a -3 on the +7 on the high end, -3, depending on why you're doing it. And in almost all cities, counties, there's never a good reason to do that. And you're opening yourself up, if you did that, you're opening up yourself to challenge in court. And that's why we stay within plus or minus 5%. Because we don't want me to go.
Well, personally,
I'm not sure if that answered your question.
I'm be more interested in providing for the representation of ethnicities and cultural groups to allow them, be sure that we allow those differences in that area to have representation than satisfying in number. I feel like the group that we have now does that probably as well as any. And so if we can live with you said that the group, that number 4 was at 7%. Over?
No,
Right, but then you have
Is
District 2 at 5.1 over, you would be at a total deviation combined at 12.2%, which would really put you almost certainly in violation. And
4's under.
that would
2's over.
really open you up to a big legal challenge. I mean, 10% overall deviation, you could have that discussion if you had good reasons to do it, if you had like a +7 or a -7 and a +3. But I don't see any reason for that in the county. And I think that could open you up to a challenging court. And definitely if you kept the districts as they are currently at an overall deviation of 12.2%, I would highly recommend against that.
no more questions at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Is that all we got to do with that one? Okay.
Thank you, Brad. You're welcome to close the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business item 5B. Discussion and review of the 2023 capital outlay. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes. Good morning again, Commissioners. So what we wanted to touch on, and we had sent out a revised summary. We did want to add one additional priority. This is courtesy of our road department. It would stay at priority number 11. But what we're trying to work in is to make sure that we have all of the roads listed that could be subject to some of this new federal funding that the state seems to find itself inundated with. And so that project alone is specific and to micro seal. So it will greatly limit the use of our staff because we do have a contractor that we've secured through procurement to be able to provide those services. So at that point, it'd be traffic control. So again, limited resources from us, but a lot of miles of road to be able to do. You can see that that project alone is just over it's almost 2.2 million. And so we want to work that in the state. As y'all will recall, you adopted the resolution, I believe, in August in terms of the ICIP plan, but they are allowing modifications. So today we just wanted to touch on that and also then highlight the others. So we have had a chance to start communications with a lot of our legislative representation. Specifically, we were told that there's quite a bit of money being anticipated, so we really want to make sure that we get a substantial list. In the years past, we had always looked at the top 5. However, this year we can certainly look, and in this case, it's submitting, the top 11 at this point for our year. So we have everything else is. There were some adjustments because we really seen a change in the price of goods and services and the price of the labor market. So as y'all will recall, we had anticipated and seen prior road barns that were similar facilities being built for right around 400,000, and ours is at about 650. And that's the difference of approximately 3 years in construction. So the inflation factor is very prominent in our area. Across goods and services, as well as those specialty and trade areas. We do have the Fairgrounds master plan. We did modify that with Mr. Leidick, our engineer, to make sure that it included the ADA type aspects and all of the concrete, because we have the draining dealt with now. So now we can go in there with those walkways and pathways. So we do have all of that in there. We increased the sheriff's office fleet replacement from 2 vehicles to 3 because, again, fund for that year if we were able to receive that. The other thing was on there. It's still on there for the health clinic over at La Casa. We would like to look at refinishing that project. Right now we have a synthetic stucco that just does not weather well in eastern New Mexico. And so we could look at some different materials. We also want to look at refinishing that parking lot over there for them. So we just really want to continue to take care of that. And then again, we added the one project for Mr. Lovato and his team, about 2.2 million, that are just specific to micro seal roads. So these are roads that are very much already in the process of they're chip sealed. Now we can put a micro seal on them and sustain them for many years to come. And then I think we have other ones that we can consider, like the ones out in your area right now that there was no saving at this point to come into. So we have those there. We also have our road workshop that's coming up, but this is specific to capital outlay. So at our road workshop following our next meeting on the 21st, you can certainly look and review and revise years 24 through 27. It will help us begin to plan for year 28. And it's important that residents really, they realize that it's a 5-year plan a lot of times minimum for these roads to get done because of the way the funding structure is and the way things have it laid out. So we'll continue to be able to use our ICIP project for that 5-year plan, but y'all will have that discussion at the upcoming meeting. Other than that, I would stand for any questions. Our plan is basically we have everything updated except the courthouse renovation. And you'll see later that we have some contract renewals because our architect firm is working on some of those engineering things. So the only thing that I would recommend at this point to not that doesn't have a modification is the courthouse renovations, because right now we're just going off of a best guess. We don't have the architect's finalized plan and numbers. And there's no action needed. If y'all don't have any issues with anything, we can just submit it as it is.
Okay.
It's just up to the commission.
I don't have any issues with what you presented, but just a comment. I was thinking about, we were talking earlier at some commission meetings prior about renovating the restrooms at J. Lopez, right? And after attending the last state school board meeting, there was attended a workshop on meeting the legal requirements to meet the needs of the LGBT community. And after hearing what Mr. Morrison said about opening yourselves up for lawsuits, I think we need to start making plans that our restroom facilities, without a doubt, will accommodate the LGBT community and their needs. So we need to kind of keep that in mind. We're talking about stalls and different ways that different people could access the facilities and not feel intimidated or under any duress. Just a comment. Thank you.
I have a question for you. I like the ICIP, by the way. On the road workshop, this is going to be our final road workshop. Is this the road workshop that we're having on after our next meeting? I know I have a lot of people that come to me and they, are very unhappy with what roads are getting fixed and whatnot. And so I have tried to encourage people to come to the road workshop. That would be the place to be. So this is the one they need to come to, correct?
Historically, this is the workshop that the commission has used to start crafting direction for our road superintendent and administration in terms of maintaining our 5-year road plan, any enhancements that we may make to our ICIP plan, and anything as far as the local government road fund, the LGRF funds that we apply for each year. So yes, ma'am, to really reiterate that. We have done the same thing. When we have public meetings, we did public meetings for the ICIP. Carol hosted those and we didn't have any attendance. Right. And so we try to encourage that. If they can't attend, then obviously we just want them to be speaking with y'all as you are their representative. So if they can't make those meetings, then certainly to have those conversations with commission, they can send an email to y'all. They can email myself. They can email Mr. Lovato. Every time we put out a press release, we really try to provide multiple avenues for them to access the group. And y'all's information is listed very publicly on our website. So yes, ma'am, that is a great point to reiterate that we are all very accessible and we want to hear from our public. We also have our road plan up on the website so that they can see, here's the plan, here's the roads we have enhanced, here's the plan of what we are looking to do. This is how it's laid out so that they have a better idea of when their road is on the schedule for enhancement, or if it even is at that point.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, I want to just make sure people know, because I've had several, especially about 19. But no one came. And I know that I've been to a couple of ICIP meetings where nobody else showed up. So I just wish that people would show up or at least email, get their voice heard, because we can't do if we don't know. So.
And it is hard once things are in motion, like you said, and then you start hearing from people that's past the point of return, at that point. So we definitely want to have that. We've sought that input and that feedback. That's why we draft it. That's why we leave it on our website. We have multiple open meetings, all of our public meetings. We've had a lot of those ICIP meetings after hours or during lunchtime, just trying to make sure that we offer it accessibility wise to a broad array. So again, if they cannot make it, then if they want to email and make sure that they have their roads. Now, it may not be something that the commission works in, but at least then you have all the information. Because at this point, we've driven the districts with y'all. You're aware of your roads. You're aware of your issues. We've looked at some things that are further down on the plan. There are priorities that pop up in the interim, and plans do change. But that is a running list that Mr. Lovato maintains. So that we're constantly adding to them. And then as we are able to secure funding, then those roads come off and then we just keep working, because inevitably we ask for more funding than we ever secure. So there are always roads left over from the prior year that were not able to be addressed.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So everybody just needs to be aware that there's a road workshop and that they need, if they have any comments on the redistricting, you need to get it in the next couple of weeks before the next meeting.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add that this is my mentality is let our constituents know to try to be part of the solution, not the problem,
Exactly.
and become more proactive, because without communication, there's only so much we can do after a certain time because our hands will be tied. So solution, not the problem.
Right.
Thank
And
you.
if they can't come to the meeting, you can still email, you can call. Our stuff is listed on the Roosevelt County website, our phone numbers, all of our information. I've had several come to my house. So, I mean, my address is on, come on. I don't care. Just, I would rather you tell me beforehand than complain about it later. Because if I don't know what to do, I can't do it if I don't know what you want. So anyway, okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Hamilton. I personally thank you and Mr. Lovato for going with, asking me to go around and tour the roads in my districts and explaining priorities and looking at the roads. I think that was helpful to me. So what I'm seeing in my particular district is there are certain people in my district who live by the old adage that squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I'm getting calls from certain people, and then I go look at the roads, and yes, it needs attention, definitely does. But then when I go look at other roads, they need it more. So we have limited funds and limited equipment, and limited personnel. Who do you give it? Who do you give it to? And I don't know if you, I appreciate that. I think it opened my eyes to a lot of possibilities and needs. I thank you for including me in that tour. I don't know if the other commissioners have. I assume that I'm not the only one. Okay.
I took that same tour.
So anyway, actually what I'm seeing is what is actually in need may not be priorities, because everybody thinks that their road is the worst. And when you go looking at them, it may not be the case. So, but thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Your problem's potholes, Dennis. And that's not our problem. Okay. Is everybody through with that one? Okay. Moving on. 5C, request for approval of disposal of by public auction of 2012 Dodge Caravan from the Detention Center. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Commissioner. So we're just asking for approval of this disposal. At this point, it has over 100,000 miles and it is cost prohibitive to repair. It would take a complete transmission overhaul, which exceeds the value of the unit at this point. And as y'all are aware, we have a new transport vehicle that is still on order and hopefully arriving sometime this fiscal year. So at this point, though, this unit is not drivable, and I'm always encouraging our departments and our elected officials to not hold on to things that we don't need to. So we're going to dispose of this via public auction, and we're just asking for that approval.
Chair, I move we approve the disposal of the 2012 Caravan.
I'll second. Got a motion, a second. Mr. Lopez. Yes.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 6A, consideration of resolution 2021-48, hiring and retention incentive program for the Roosevelt County Detention Center. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, Commissioner. So to build off of what we had spoken about earlier during my report, this is the one area that continues to plague us and is very troublesome to be able to actually fill. We are running at approximately a 40% vacancy rate right now. We do have a firm number of where we're at, and when we hit that, then things will have to change within the facility. We have a minimum staffing level, and right now we're hitting all those. Our team out there is incredible, the existing team that we have. And again, it is super important to retain as many of them as possible. But sometimes the retention isn't always doable. So we want to look at some other things in terms of the hiring incentive. And in this, this is something that another county has done. San Juan County did it and had great luck. So what I've asked Randy to help draft this resolution. I think San Juan County had done it as an administrative policy. I wanted to bring it before the commission because this is not something that we've included in our budget at this point. But what we're wanting to ask is that we consider putting in an incentive for, again, retaining the ones that we have. So if you stay, then you stay and you get a $500 incentive at the end of your 6-month tour. If you stay through a year, then it's an additional $1,000. And right now we have longevity pay, and we have longevity pay for both the detention center and the sheriff's office, but it doesn't start until 3 years. And so we're just asking for the commission to consider putting this into place. What we see is that at detention center, these are very much the entry level jobs going into any kind of criminal justice or social type programs. This is great experience for a lot of our college kids specifically. And so we really want to try to retain the staff we have and put in some incentive along those lines. The other part of this resolution that I think I'm probably even more excited about is the recruitment piece in terms of like the referrals. So right now we've had one applicant in the last 3 weeks that has come in, and we have radio ads going. We have it running in media. We have it running on Indeed. There is just a shortage of people available to work. And so we really want to be creative and trying to find more of our applicant pool. And what we do find is that our employees are the best sources. So inevitably, we know somebody that might be looking for a job or might be looking for a better job or a better environment. And so we are asking for this to also include its referral. So if a county employee refers someone to be hired, they go through our hiring process, they are selected for the position, then at the end of 6 months, they would receive a $250 referral bonus. And if they stayed for a year, then they would receive the $500. These are also things that are available through the ARPA funding, through the incentive type stuff. And so this is something that wouldn't have to be a general fund budget allocation specifically for them. And at this point, the numbers are very low and minimal because the way that the fiscal year works, there's only 7 years. So what we will see is that it will be more to absorb, obviously, in fiscal year 23, but it's not anything that we don't think we're able to consume within the budget. In this fiscal year alone, we could be looking at about 15,000 at the most at this point, and it would probably be more along the lines of about 7 or 8 if we could get everything filled, if we had referrals for everything. Now, again, there's going to be some applicants that come in that won't have a referral, so there's nothing tied to it. But with the tie of the incentive and such, and I'm sure y'all saw all the details in the resolution of all the different things that we tried to cover in terms of setting forth a policy. But hopefully that describes it enough for you. So I would stand for any questions that you may have.
I have a question. I think that the incentive program is a great idea. However, I don't understand why we couldn't just do it for all county employees. Why does it have to be specific to detention? I realize that that's where we're low, but I know that, even hotels and restaurants and everybody is struggling trying to find someone that'll work. Every place is trying. And if something was to happen and we was to lose an employee in the clerk's office or somewhere else, we may not be able to fill that either, because people just don't seem to want to work right now. I didn't know if there was a way I would rather change this to cover all county rather than to just focus on one department, because I feel like that's, I agree with the detention center, but I just feel like we need to focus on our county as a whole, not just one specific section of it.
Okay, so just to kind of address that. So This was presented because right now the only department that we have vacancies in is detention. And the only one that we truly struggle to staff is detention. Inevitably, even with road or sheriff's office, when we have openings, we're able to staff those. So right now, that's why you see that. But when I presented on the other things of presenting options for the commission to consider at the next meeting tied to the salary survey, that is more of the incentives tied to the rest of like all employees at that point. So the paratype stuff or the COLA, that would be across the board. Right now, we were just trying to work on the area that we're targeting. If it's something that the entire commission wants to see, then obviously it'll be a much bigger budget. And we do not have longevity pay. It is only specific at this point in our pay plan for the detention center and for the sheriff's office. So if you change that and set a policy for longevity pay across, then it would have a much larger scale budget impact at that point, because you're talking about 90 plus positions instead of the 33 at the detention center.
But it wouldn't have any effect on any of the other. If there's not an opening, there's not going to be any cost there. And so if everything else is fully staffed, it's not going to even, and we don't foresee we haven't had any problems hiring in those departments or filling them. I just don't see where it would be a problem to do it across the board rather than just that, because I mean, they're fully staffed, and if it's not going to cost us any money if there's not an opening there, but if there is an opening, then we'll be able to cover it.
Madam Chair, can I have the floor?
Sure.
I did speak to Commissioner Dixon in reference to this agenda item yesterday, I think. I did respectfully request for her to open it up for debate. Because when you think of a detention center through county government, you're really not comparing apples to apples when you compare it to at-large positions like clerk's office, probate assessors, treasurers. Just the liability alone and just the fact of the work environment that our people are put through is so much more different than if Mandy has a position with the clerk's office that she needs to fill. She's going to get 200 applicants, I guarantee you, in this area, without a doubt. Now, when you think, one of the things that I noted here on this resolution is critical stage. It is a critical stage nationwide and for a lot of different factors. It's not an easy job. They're underpaid, underserved, underappreciated, and it's a hell of a job to work at a detention center. So even with behavioral health, the field that I'm in, we've just recently done incentive programs, bonus programs based on retention. It's all based on trying to keep our people working under behavioral health. I'm not saying that it's the same thing as working in detention, but 99% of the people coming out of detention go to behavioral health. So it's kind of coincides with each other. And we needed, it was very instrumental for our board of directors and our top management teams to implement some type of incentive. And I relate it a lot to detention centers because it's not an easy job. It's full of liability. We need high qualified people we appreciate and that we're going to compensate for what they do, because we don't get a whole lot of lawsuits coming out of the clerk department or the assessors or the treasurers or the road department. Thank God, knock on wood. But if you see what goes on within the detention center, staffers and the people that we're having to take care of in there, because they're human beings, we have to take care of them. You know, it's just a whole different ballgame. So for me to try to generalize it and try to take the whole pie and feed everyone with the whole pie, I'd rather take that piece of pie with the detention center and address that first and foremost, because I honestly don't think there's going to be a problem arising with the other departments within our county. And I would stand corrected if I ever saw it in the near future. But that's where I stand in reference to this.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I see that our representative from law enforcement is here. So question to you, sir, do you see a similar problem in law enforcement?
Oh, yeah,
Acquiring
Absolutely.
and retaining?
This, the last position that we had, we did fill it pretty quick. But the time before that, we had 2 positions open for, there was 4 or 5, 6 months that we had those positions that were vacant, so we were understaffed for quite a while. Nobody wants to do this job anymore, just like the detention center.
Javier, you need to be out there.
Sorry. But anyway, so, I mean, we struggle just the same as everybody else does. The detention center has a lot more people that they employ than the sheriff's office. We're a very small agency. We're still down that one position that we lost years ago. We did apply for the COPS grant with the help of Carol with the admin office. We were just notified I think it was last week, that we did not get that position back through the COPS grant. So that would have been another position that we would try to fill, and that would have opened up the opportunity for these incentives for our office as well. So I think when we look at it, and as Dennis Hope said, you know, I know where he's coming from, where we're looking at that one problem, but I think the morale of the entire county and all of the employees, I think it should be taken in consideration that we all have the same incentives. Our step plan is still quote unquote frozen. And when we look at that step plan, whenever it was enacted by the commission, it specifically states in that plan that any cost of living would be adjusted on that step plan, which hasn't happened. So we do have some employees that are not up to the steps where they should be. You know, and the guys are always asking, when are we going to get this plan back in action? And when can we look at this plan and say, okay, in 2023, I know I'm going to get paid X amount of money, because that's when they came to the sheriff's office, when that step plan was enacted. That's what they can look forward to. They can look at that plan and say, I know where I'm going to be at in 5 years, versus going to the city of Portales. I can look at their step plan and know where I'm going to be at in 5 years with them as well. So that's just, you know, that's something that was enacted for recruiting as well, but it's in a position where it's frozen right now. And we'd like to get that back, as well as any incentives that any of the other employees throughout the county would be entitled to. So, and I'll stand for any other questions.
Real quick, Madam Chair, I would like the record to reflect that with what I reported a little while ago, or my statement, I meant to mention that it would be inclusive of the sheriff's department as well in those particular positions. And I thought that Amber had mentioned that with the incentive programs, it was the sheriff and detention center, right?
The existing ones that we have. The one that
Okay.
is presented before y'all right now is specific to the detention center
Okay.
and the challenge at hand. We are at critical staffing, and I am working on housing agreements with some of our neighboring counties in Texas, because again, if we hit a critical staffing shortage of a certain level that I've worked with administration to address, then we will be forced to shut certain areas of our detention center. So the staffing, hiring, retention, recruitment, all of that is imperative at this point. We're just trying to kind of come at it in a variety of different ways. I mean, we do have the COLA. That was something that was applicable to everyone. It went across every step. There was nobody that was left out, other than the elected officials that were set by statute and resolution. And the pay plan that will be presented to the commission is all inclusive. In years past, a certain office had said, we do not want to be included in that evaluation. We don't feel like that's the best thing for our employees at this time. We think they should be part of that, and they should be evaluated, and that plan should be incorporated and moved up. Like, we really want to make sure that we stay competitive. So you will see that the pay plan that's presented, Ms. Oles worked with them to get it started with S Resource, but it's all inclusive. So it has everybody included. It's not unique for one specific area. It's for all county employees, and it's across the board. It will take care of the assessment of here's where we're at. And we do have the market survey data to show how we compare to other counties and local governments in our region and comparable size and everything. So y'all will see that in the salary survey. And once we get it, we will send it out well ahead of time so that y'all have some time to really, because it will be, I think, pretty close to 200 pages to review. And so I want to give y'all ample time to look through all of that. We're happy to make changes. However, the commission sees fit. It's just, this is the area that is imperative right now. This is the area, as Commissioner Lopez highlighted, where we struggle to hire. We can get data and we can look back at openings and how long certain positions were actually open and held. We have been receiving applicants for other positions. They just may not be, like for law enforcement, they may receive several applicants, but they aren't certified, and they are choosing not to hire uncertified at this point. They only want certified. So those are some different filters that we kind of work through in those different positions. With the clerk, the latest opening, I think Mandy reminded me, we had 4 applicants for. She was able to interview and find a great candidate to select. So very much along the lines of, this is the one area where we're struggling. So if the commission wishes to make modifications, we can certainly do those. It's just what was presented with y'all is the challenge that we're facing right now. So I would stand for any other questions or commission direction on how y'all want to move forward.
Did you have something else? Are you
Yeah, well, there's
finished?
some, I've read through this and some things that I just want to be sure that that I'm completely understanding it. We're proposing to give them an employee a $500 incentive if they stay for 6 months. If they stay for 12, we'll give them another 1,000. So in all, to stay for 12, they'll get $1,500.
Okay, so the way that we currently have it written, yes, sir, they eligible for the $500 incentive. And then it's, so we can clarify that, but it's inclusive. It's actually 1,000 total. So it's, you have the 500 you get at the 6 months, and then you get the additional 500
Okay,
at
so
the
it's
end.
not 1,500.
No, it's 1,000 for the 12 month
Okay.
total.
The way I read it,
That's the way I read
was
it, too.
a little ambiguous to me. So let's talk about the days that they sign up. That was also something that I thought might be, it wasn't clear to me. The December 7th and June 30th. Is that 6-month period from the day that they begin work, or from December 7th?
So the policy would just go into effect as established by the commission today. So it would affect those that apply, start anything from today forward. We can't make payment type policy retroactive and back pay. So this is, as of today, if the commission adopts this, then it would be effective for the HR process from this moment forward.
So what was unclear in my mind is if they sign up on June 29th, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get employed on June 29th. Is it 6 months from then? I mean, do they have to be employed for 6 months to get the incentive?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
We don't pay them ahead of time. They
Okay.
receive
No,
this
I
at
mean,
the end.
at the end of that 6 months.
Correct.
Madam Chair, real quick, I think for clarification purposes, basically, if we pass the resolution, it's effective as of today. It's going to be up for review on June 30th of 2022, right? It'll
Correct.
be up for review. Any hiring that happens, if we hire someone on January 3rd, 6 months from January 3rd is whenever that incentive bonus would go into effect. So basically, I'm reading this resolution like it's something that we're doing on a trial basis, see how it's going to pan out, because it's going to be up for review at the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, 2022. So it would just go into effect as of to date if we pass this resolution. But I've got another question. Why is it that we're even having to do a resolution in reference to this? What's the purpose behind a resolution? What?
So it would be a policy, and this is how we do all of them. So the detention center incentive plan was a resolution. Anytime you have anything that impacts the budget that wasn't included in the initial,
Okay.
that's why we present it this way.
That's a resolution. Okay.
We could have possibly done it as an administrative change in policy. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I think this is a commission decision. I want it to be presented to the governing body. I want y'all to understand why we're asking for what we're asking and why we're moving. But to further clarify, in the resolution, it just talks about even if your anniversary date is after June 30th, then you'll still be eligible for this in the coming fiscal year. We just set a time frame. We also do not plan to have an ongoing hiring issue at the detention center. The goal is we get these positions hired, filled, and we retain the employees that we have. It's common to have 2 to 4 openings at the detention center at any given time. But when you start running at 40%, that is concerning. And this is a program or a problem that we're seeing across the state. This is not unique to our detention center. This is something that the majority of other detention centers, the other 26, I know of at least 22, 23 of them that are also facing this same challenge.
Okay, Mr. Savage.
Okay, we talked about the 1,000 and 1,500
Yes, sir.
on the referral. Yeah, that gets the referral. I guess that's a maximum of 500. It won't be 250 and then another.
Correct.
It'll only be to a maximum.
It's to be all inclusive, but
Okay.
Mr. Knudsen is fixing that with the wording.
Did you have anything else? Are you finished?
Well, I think so.
I would like to ask if it would be, what I would like to see, because after listening to you and everybody, and you,
Me, so don't include me.
I listen to you. I just don't usually like what you say. And this time I did. So, I would, after listening to everybody, I understand where you're coming from, where it's not so hard to get a job within, like within here in the courthouse, like in your office. I understand that. But I would still like to be able to make this be, and I realize we don't have openings right now, but can we not change it to all law enforcement? Because, like your statement, you said, if I'm not mistaken, you said you were including law enforcement as well. Could we include the all law enforcement, make it for all law enforcement, detention, sheriff's department, and just cover all of the law enforcement in it?
We can it would only be the hiring incentive or that
Right.
first
I
part,
understand.
because all county employees
No, I
are
understand that. Yeah.
eligible for the referral program.
Right,
It's just the hiring. So
yeah, I
if
understand
that was something that the commission wanted to,
in case we lose an
have-
officer. Yeah. In case we
Yes.
lose an officer, if it's
We
going to be
just need
that
to
hard
add
for them
that.
to get another one.
Mhm.
I'd like to at least add the sheriff's department or the law enforcement, make it all law enforcement. Okay. You got
Is that-
anything else?
For today's purposes, this resolution, we don't have to amend anything. Nothing's going to be finalized. It's just a resolution, right?
oh no,
Not-
it's
No,
final.
it's final.
We're asking y'all to adopt. Now, if y'all choose to table it, then we can wait until the next meeting. At this point, Mr. Knudsen has written in the revision on clarifying the inclusivity of the payments, the incentive and the hiring referral, the 1,000 and the
Mhm.
500. Those are the only modifications that have been written in. If y'all choose to want to have the law enforcement referral, we'll write that one in and add the sheriff's office. It would be at the same thing below the rank of sergeant
Right.
because it's, again, only for detention officers. So
I
it would
gotcha.
only be for a deputy.
I understand that. Yep.
So,
You could still approve this though,
Yeah.
subject to, and you could approve it today, we could bring back and modify for you to look at next week, just to ratify, give it, so. I just throw it
And-
out, because I know Amber's anxious to get this
Yeah.
implemented as quickly as she can.
well, Mr. Attorney, that was my next question. If we could just take action on this, and even if it was a separate resolution with the sheriff's department, that's possible as well, right?
Yeah.
In lieu of an amendment. So we would like to address that next agenda item at our next meeting. I'd like to have that on our,
Why don't we just
Agenda,
put it
and
with this one? Why- We can just combine it all today and be done.
okay? You go, girl. I
Thank
mean,
you.
Madam Chair, sorry.
I listened to you, now listen to me, dadgummit.
I'm sure there's one of these where I'm looking at it, can't find it on here, but had to do with the filing of the letter. The employee
Mhm.
states can't find it on which one I'm looking at, which,
Referring employee will not receive credit towards continuous employment for referral incentives purposes when detention officer referred.
It talks about a form.
Yes.
So it's the top of page 2, and it just talks about that there will be a form. We do have a form because we have
Okay.
paper for everything. So HR has that prepared in the event y'all adopt this, so that we are ready to go with it, because it just has the same fill out. It has to be done at the new hire part of the employee process. And it was something that the other county had already generated for us. So we just had some simple modifications to make it ours.
the clarification that I was wondering if it's concerned to anyone but me was, it says a referral form must be completed by the referred applicant on the applicant's first day of employment during the new employee's orientation. Second sentence, the referral form must be submitted to Human Resources Office prior to beginning work.
So
Which is it? On the first day or prior?
it's everything. It's the same. So new employee and orientation happens on your first day. When we ask someone to report for training, they have to be on the clock and we have to pay them for it. They do not report initially to the detention center without first going through all of the new hire orientation in administration. So it's one and the same.
Okay.
Sorry.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll move on to item 6A to approve resolution 2021-48 hiring and retention incentive program for RCDC with inclusive of the amendments that our legal representative presented to us.
The sheriff's department
Yes.
and the verification of pay.
Second.
Madam Chair, can I repeat my motion?
You can.
I did not have my speaker on. I apologize. I'd like to move that we approve agenda item 6A, resolution 2021-48 hiring and retention incentive program for the RCDC as presented and inclusive of what our legal representative recommended to add the sheriff's department and
And to correct the pay. to-
to correct the pay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Thank you so much. Okay. Item 6B, consideration of proclamation designating December as Drunk and Drugged Driving Prevention Month. Miss Reed. Push your button. Are you on already?
Thank you. Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for considering the proclamation of designating December as Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month. We did this last year, brought it to you, and you did proclaim December as Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month. We have several types of activities planned. Mainly it's media push. It's getting information just out to people, reminding them. December is typically a big push statewide through Traffic Safety Bureau and Office of Substance Abuse, whatever all the entities are that have money to promote awareness. And so that's what we're asking again. We did a little, we had a float in the parade on Friday with teen court kiddos and our banners and posters. We have stuff running a lot of on different media sites, and we're partnering with some businesses. They're going to have stuff up on their marquees. We've got it on the marquee at Portales High School, which I thought that was a plus. I've never been able to get anything up at the marquee in Portales High School. So we're just trying to remind people, think before you drink and drive, drug and drive, whatever it is. Make sure you have a family member or somebody you can call or with you. So I am at your, any questions about it further? I did not bring it. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. I didn't remember doing that last year, but I would have brought it. So thank you. Proclamation, Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month, December 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021. whereas Roosevelt County officials value the health and safety of all our citizens, and whereas local leaders in government and in the community know that the support of the citizens in our communities is the most effective tool they can have in their efforts to reduce the use of alcohol and other drugs in New Mexico by New Mexicans. And whereas Roosevelt County is joining with the listed New Mexico DWI coordinators affiliates to support their efforts to reduce DWI crash, DWI fatalities, and the use of alcohol by residents throughout the state. And whereas the New Mexico DWI Coordinators Affiliate represents 33 counties with the common goal of reducing the incidence of DWI, alcoholism, alcohol abuse, drug addiction, or drug abuse and prevention, or reducing the incidence of domestic abuse related to the use of abuse. This is interesting, isn't it? To the use or abuse of alcohol. And whereas the New Mexico DWI coordinators in the 33 counties provide service under the local DWI program that provide compliance, monitoring, tracking for over 12,000 offenders, ensuring that these offenders are in compliance with court-ordered requirements. Most importantly, Roosevelt County provides compliance monitoring tracking for over 600 local DWI offenders, which is a normal number. And whereas these programs throughout the state also provide more than 12,000 hours and 11,000 sessions of treatment in 2021, with over 9,000 clients receiving detoxification services. And whereas New Mexico has 15 teen court programs across the state, Roosevelt County has a very active teen court program with over 20 high school students undertaking the duties of attorneys, bailiffs, and jurors. And whereas alcohol-involved fatalities have decreased in New Mexico since 2019, Roosevelt County has had 0 alcohol-related fatalities for 2020 and 2021. And whereas the reduction of alcohol-involved vehicle crash fatalities and serious alcohol-involved vehicle crash injuries is due in part to the dedicated work of the local DWI program. And whereas the purpose of Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month is to raise awareness around DWI, alcoholism, alcohol abuse, drug addiction, and/or drug abuse, and the efforts of the DWI affiliates and the local DWI programs. And whereas Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month will be celebrated in Curry, Tobacco, and Roosevelt counties in New Mexico during December 1st through 31st of 2021. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the governing body, Roosevelt County Board of Commissioners, does hereby designate December 2021 as Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month. Read that last part. Roosevelt County Board of Commissioners urge all citizens, parents, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, hospitals, schools, and colleges in Roosevelt County to support efforts that will increase community awareness, understanding, and action to address DWI in our community. Board of County Commissioners of Roosevelt County.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve agenda item 6B, proclamation designating December as Drunken Drug Driving Prevention Month.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
7, procurement contracts and agreements.
Ownership of this facility, and so we want to ensure that the work is done. This is part of the process that is not covered by the insurance in regards to the damage that we sustained from the last May water penetration. We also are reaching out to make sure that the insurance company of the contractor is continuing continually put on notice as to the expectations. So we're just asking for approval of this agreement. I asked Mr. Knudsen to draft just so that we have something, because again, the county will be the first payer, and then we will submit the bill for reimbursement from our leasee, La Casa de Buena Salud. I would stand for any questions and ask for approval.
Madam Chair, I just need clarification. I'll say that again. We're going to proceed with the fixing of this building, and then we're going to build La Casa?
So there's two parts of this. So there is the part of the damage that the insurance will cover, and then there is the remediation part that is not covered by New Mexico County Insurance Authority. So this section right here is specific just to the remediation that has to be done at the same time as the repair. What we have found is that it's a combination of the prior lack of maintenance at the facility, which we've addressed with the La Casa representatives, the regular maintenance that needs to be done that was not necessarily done. There was some initial water penetration, but the majority of the rest of the penetration came as a result of the contractors that were hired to replace the roof did not have that roof watertight at the time of the storm in May. So both entities share some responsibility for that penetration. And we're just ensuring it's not the county's responsibility at this point, because it's not our maintenance as set forth in the agreement. It's very clear who's responsible for that. So we've had ongoing discussions with La Casa. They understand, they have agreed to pay this. We're just putting it in writing.
How much are they paying?
Half, as up to or around $61,471.11.
Okay. Did you have something, Randy?
I just wanted to clarify that some of the issues here aren't completely resolved as far as the contractor's insurance, and I don't want this to be some way on the record to be construed that we're limited somehow in making claims against the contractor, because those issues we think are resolved, but that's what we're trying to get final confirmation on. So I just want you to know that
Okay.
I just want the record to be clear that we contend that, that contractor may be responsible for more than one half of this, but that's an issue we're still in negotiation with the insurance in regard to.
Okay. And La Casa reps are good with this, the board, and
They
Let's see.
understand it. I've met, both myself and Mr. Spinks met with Mr. Montano and also with Ms. Pacheco. And we had this discussion several months ago. Yes, sir.
okay. So it'll have to come out of their budget. That's not something we could pursue through capital outlay monies or anything like that, legislative monies?
No, because this is something that has to be remedied now, and they're aware of that, and they've made those plans, I'm sure, internally. Regardless, they know that it's here, and we've shared this. This has been ongoing. We've talked about it. I think it's probably at some prior meetings that you weren't able to attend, so my apologies on that.
Well,
But
I'd like to see the minutes then, if I didn't attend a meeting.
We have some discussion on the ongoing matters just to try to get the repair done, because we know it's going to displace them, but we have to work to make sure that the building is watertight first to be able to move through that. So
Okay. So we act as a physical agent. We own the property, but we're making them responsible to pay for part of someone else's mess up?
no, again, part of this goes back to the lack of maintenance, routine maintenance that was not being completed on the building. So there were some holes and penetrations, stress cracks, things in the stucco that they were not able to maintain over prior years. And in the agreement that the county has with La Casa, the one from in the 90s.
94 and then revised again.
With the RFP in 2018, I think. They both state that the regular maintenance of the building is the responsibility of La Casa. Because again, the county has nothing to do with the operations thereof or anything out there.
Right. Okay.
I think what we discussed was the shared responsibility of the building, because they had portions, it was their responsibility to maintain.
Right.
So that's why that's correct.
And our insurance is covering the entire scope of the repair of the facility, which is more than the remediation portion of that. It's just that the remediation is not a covered expense from the insurance company.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
We had a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. 7B, request for approval of professional service agreement with Sauder Miller and Associates and ratification of services rendered for Sundell Valley Road. Mr. Lovato.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we're looking for approval to use Sauder Miller to get their engineering stamp for Sundell Valley Road. So we can move forward with our process also.
Madam Chairman, I move the adoption of 7B.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner Lopez. Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
7C, Grew and Associates, PA, for the geotechnical investigation at the courthouse. Ms. Hamilton.
So included in your packet was the letter that Mr. Nutson noted when he reviewed it. Specific to the bottom of page 4, item number 12, and you will see that it's been highlighted and stricken from this because that's not something that we're going to agree to. And this is just the next phase. So the architect that we had contracted with recommended to have these. He came out and looked and spent some time looking at this building and the water penetration concerns that we have in the lower basement levels, specifically over on the courthouse or the clerk side. And we talked about how there, you know, we know we have issues with the brick and with the joints and the mortar thereof, but he felt like we really needed this additional geo study so that we could have a better idea of what we're dealing with in terms of soil content and everything. And this was a necessary part of what we were doing. This is not something that we necessarily have specifically budgeted, but we do have budget capacity within the professional services, and it's something that we need. So y'all had budgeted for the approval of the architect. This is just in addition to that.
Madam Chair, I move we approve.
Got a motion and a second. Commissioner?
Yes.
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 Okay. Request for ratification professional service agreement with Justin Porter for Detention Center Consulting. Ms. Hamilton.
Yes, so much like we were able to do with Ms. Olds, we have a professional services agreement for Mr. Porter because we do have some additional dates that he has committed to be available for the facility. We do see him once a week for the next couple of months. And so we appreciate his help in ensuring that we're having a successful transition over at the facility.
With that,
I'll move to approve agenda item 7B, ratification for services agreement of just for RCUC consulting.
well, then I guess I'll just second it. Got a motion and a second. How do you vote, Dennis?
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Media. I'll just go. Okay. We are going to go into recess and we will reconvene at the detention center for our walkthrough.